Okay, so folks, for anyone who is new to this type of webinar, you have controls at the bottom of your screen that can control whether your mute is on, whether we can see your face. There's also chat where you can ask questions. And if you're finding it hard to see what I've got going on my back screen here, do not distress, because I always record everything. I record what we see with our video conference faces, and I also record what is going on back here on EduCreations, and that I list as our class 1 and class 2 of each night. So we are doing today the Flying Rainbow Lasagna and DNA. I've done a lot of telling you all about the theoretical. Now we are getting into the practical, the applicable. Because DNA, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like a new dance step for your DNA. So hold on, let me just adjust this focus, see if you can get it a little bit better. It's looking pretty shady. I think that's a little better. And I know that it's slanted, but I hope that brought it up a little bit better. Okay, so let's get into DNA first of all. DNA is not a static object at the center of each one of your cells. DNA is a vibrating material, and it is always dancing in the same way that you can dance with your arms and legs. You are dancing with your energy vibrations. You are using your, okay, I'll also just rewind a moment and talk about this. DNA is your light body bridge between the realm of pure possibility and the outer experienced reality. So I know that I did a whole class all about the inner and the outer. That was all about ego development, all about the sense of who you are as an individuated being amidst a whole sea of consciousness with lots of organisms. So this is the next level of understanding, that you yourself are a ball of possibilities. And so that's what this is, all right? This back here, this is your field that is around you, and it is your field of timelines, possibilities and probabilities. All right, that's everything that you could be. Now I'm going to bring up this. This is DNA, all right? So I took this, it's a still frame from an educational science video. And what I like about it, let me switch to a color that you can see here. What I like about it is that along here, that's an actual strand of DNA in the animation. It's moving, but you can see that DNA is not like a ladder. They call it a twisted ladder. It's not. It's got a wavelength and it's got a frequency. So that's one wavelength, and then it's got another wavelength that goes like that, which is relatively close to it. So there's a natural harmonic that is at play. So this is what I need for you to do as we are changing the way you think about DNA. Start to think about it like a vibrating violin string or like a vibrating guitar string, because this is what is happening on a subcellular level within each one of us. DNA is often depicted as a chromosome. I'm gonna minimize that. Oops, there we go, that's easier. Just depicted as a chromosome, which now I'll go to a different color so you can see it, is like an X shape, like I'm just drawing a big X shape back there. And the chromosome X shape only is achieved during one minimal portion of the life cycle of the cell. So like, for example, a neuron cell can last for 40 years in your body. So its reproductive cycle is when the DNA becomes a chromosome. The chromosome is like, imagine a parachute that's been very tightly packed together, or flower petals that are folded up in order to fit inside of a bud before it blooms. That is like DNA that is folded into the form of a chromosome. And it has to be supercoiled in that way, and a lot of energy goes into coiling it in that way, because for a little while when the cell is dividing, that chromosome is just going to be floating there in space. So it cannot be unfurled. Chromosomes, I'm looking for a book. I know I have a book on the table somewhere, but chromosomes are also analogous to a book with pages. And when your DNA is open for business, the pages are open and it can be read by the RNA messengers. So let me just move this back. I think, there we go. Now I think you can get a little bit better of a view. And let me go back into this because there's pictures of RNA messengers on here. The RNA messengers are these big giant green blobby things over to the side, and they run along the train tracks of your DNA, and they read them in the same way that you can read Braille. They feel the DNA and they are able to read the patterns that are in there in that way. Hold on, let me just do a little bit of erasing because we're going to get into the flying rainbow lasagna here. Over here on the left, all right, you have this toroidal energy field, this shape that I draw all the time. When this shape is placed into a higher dimensional space, you get this shape. This over here, this is the flying rainbow lasagna. This is a new dance step that you can do with your DNA. So first of all, your DNA is constantly vibrating and dancing. In the center of your cell, there's the nucleus. The nucleus is like the library. And in order for the library to be open, the book of your DNA has to be open. And RNA can then go in and read it and copy it and bring out the blueprints. I'm getting into it. Humanity has had limited DNA blueprints for a very long time, like between 10 and 20,000 years. Humanity, it must be understood, went through a genetic degradation that took the formerly higher dimensional format of your DNA and squashed it, flattened it out. And the analogy that I use is, it's like if someone took a bouquet of flowers and tried to deliver it by squeezing it under the door, you know, trying to get it through that flat little crack. You end up having to squash all of the flowers. So humanity and the full potential of what you could be was severely diminished in this genetic degradation. Aging, disease, and eventual death are the hallmark symptoms of the fact that your DNA has been flattened out from what it is supposed to be. So first of all, the lesson here today is your DNA is constantly moving, changing, twisting, shifting, and morphing. Science recognizes this, and the little still shot over here came from a very nice video that's all about how DNA is replicated. So there's two types of DNA replication. One is where RNA messengers go into the library of your cells, read a segment, they say, here's how to build a body part. Let's transcribe this and then take it out of the cell and go build that body part. The other time when DNA is replicated is in preparing for cell mitosis. That's when a cell splits itself in half and becomes two cells. So in order to do that, it is necessary to split the genetic material that is at the center of that one cell. So the first thing that the cell does is it makes a copy of every single one of its chromosomes. And then at a certain point, it's a beautiful video, these chromosomes move apart like this. And then remember, they have to be tightly packed because they're floating in space. There's no nuclear membrane separating these chromosomes from the extracellular fluid. So and the way that works in a cell, there's the cell membrane, there's intracellular fluid, then there's the nuclear membrane, then there's what's inside the nucleus. So at this moment in the cell's division, there is no nuclear membrane, the chromosomes are just floating, and at a certain point the cell membrane splits apart and those chromosomes are just floating there. So they have to be all tightly coiled together so that nothing is lost. But when the cells are simply in their active state, they're not actually reproducing, all of the genetic sweater is unfurled. You can imagine taking a yarn and pulling on the yarn of the sweater and unfurling the entire sweater, and then you have what is called chromatin. This is in the nucleus of the cell, the undifferentiated mass of genetic material. So the way that science and medical science currently researches DNA. If DNA were a sweater, it takes the entire sweater, it unfurls the entire sweater, cuts it up with scissors into little tiny pieces, dissolves the sweater in a solution, shakes the whole thing up, and then allows the sweater sediment to settle out to its different levels of density, and then understands DNA in that way. So that loses a whole lot of information, and it is the description, the understanding of why humans and medical science up until this point understands DNA as being only filled with a little bit of valuable information and the rest, quote unquote, junk. That is like saying, we don't understand this music. The rest, we understand this little part of the music, but the rest of this is quote unquote junk. Well, not only is it not junk, but the information that is contained within the DNA has to do with context. So if I told you, like, first of all, our language of our mouth has to do with context. I used this analogy earlier today. If I said to someone just the word watch, you don't know, like, am I referring to like a watch on your arm? Am I saying to you, you should watch something? You should watch out? Is there something to watch out for? That just that one word, it is almost meaningless. That in order to really communicate, we require context. That's the same exact thing with one's genes and your genetic language. So your genes are a language, and they're a bridge between this world of pure light, of pure possibilities, of thought, of emotion, of spirit, of what could happen, into this world out here, the realm of seemingly hard-edged objects that can be experienced by a person wearing a bio-bodysuit experiencing the fourth dimension. Your genes are the bridge between that thought and manifestation, between possibilities and actual manifestation and experiencing of those possibilities. So this goes into epigenetics, because I've spoken about that, the idea that you are not a victim of your genes, and I've also touted Bruce Lipton as a really great teacher because he's a scientist with heart. So he understands that there is mind, body, spirit, and that there's a great deal of energy that is at play in your genes and in your hormones and in your cell membrane, and that is just as much a part of your cellular biology as the pure mechanics of what makes ATP allow your cell to grow or to function or to, to metabolize. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a new dance step or a new format that you can do with your genes. So right there, I have just told you that your genes are a bridge between the world of pure light and the realm of experienced matter. And I've just told you that the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a new dance step in that genetic dance. So it's also like saying the Flying Rainbow Lasagna allows you to manifest new possibilities that you would not otherwise have had access to. This is why we live in a new realm. Everything that has happened since October 8th of 2001 is part of this new realm. As soon as the Flying Rainbow Lasagna was created, a door was opened so that now all of these new combinations and experiences can occur, things that could not have occurred before the invention of this. So during the life cycle where DNA is replicated for use as like a template or a blueprint, so your DNA is made of two strands, and I'm also going to draw this for the people at home. You've got two strands, and they're twisted together in much the same way that you twist together a piece of yarn. Those two strands, in order for the RNA to read it, have to at a certain point be split apart. And it makes kind of like a loop. So I'm going to make a loop with my hand like this. Like you've got a strand, and then one strand goes up like this, and another strand, and then the other strand goes down there like that. And that is an ordinary and appropriate part of the life cycle of DNA. However, if you were to unfurl all of your DNA and make loops like that with them, you would, and if you didn't have some kind of a spatial placeholder, you would be unstable. You would not be able to continue with cellular life because your genes would essentially collapse. The flying rainbow lasagna allows you to hold the genes open in that unzipped state without it collapsing because you have added another dimension. The extra dimension is your invisible cosmic dance partner. So now it must be understood that you have tiny toroidal energy fields on a genetic level, at the level of supercoiling. So we've taken your genes, we've taken the genetic yarn, twisted it all up as much as we possibly can, and it creates all of these beautiful little toroid donuts. If you get those donuts moving in a higher dimensional state, you create the flying rainbow lasagna shape, this shape right here. You create this shape on a genetic level, and that allows you to finally access a lot of the possibilities that were no longer accessible to humanity because of the genetic degradation, because of everything being squashed down and flattened out. So we've got science. Okay. Noel Questions says, what happened 10 or 20,000 years ago that caused the degradation? The answer for this class is that in lesson 18, I will give the full teaching of exactly what happened. So the short answer is that Earth, the culture that was on Earth up until that point, was beautifully attuned to its own innate divinity. This is what your genes are supposed to be doing. Your genes are supposed to be like vibrating, violin strings that are singing the divine concerto of the universe. You're supposed to be an instrument that is being played by divinity, the most beautiful music you could possibly imagine. And that music does not include suffering. It does not include disease or death or cellular aging as we currently know it. Like, it includes the body moving chronologically through time, but not necessarily the reduction in positive and comfortable use of the body. Do you understand? Like, there's a whole different way to move through time without the expectation that every moment is dragging you down and taking away from your muscle power and reducing your bones and giving you osteoporosis and giving you Alzheimer's. Like, that's the programming from this day and age, from this time and place. But it didn't used to be that way. We come from, or my heritage is, of a world where really when we grew older, we grew amassed wisdom or experience. Like, imagine a computer that has a lot of information in its memory banks, and so it's very valuable. But it still does everything that computers are supposed to do. Like, it still runs, it still swims, it still eats and has teeth and is happy and healthy. That is the world that we came from. And people died when they were ready to die. That means they were complete with their physical journey and they were ready to voluntarily stop their heart rate and go in continuity of consciousness to the next place. What happened was an invasion from beings from another realm. In this case, they came from Mars, but that wasn't their origin. They came from Mars because that was the most recent planet that they had destroyed. But they really came from another area of our galaxy, another neighborhood in the Orion star area, and they didn't have a way to get back to their home world. This is, again, the short story. We go into the whole thing in lesson 18, and because of that, they can't eat food of pure spirit. They can't feed on just love, which is what true energy beings feed off of. They eat sunlight directly through here, and that is what we are all moving towards. I am here to teach us how to do that. I am here to teach us how to move towards non-materiality, and the ascension process itself is one of raising the vibration of your physical matter of your body so that eventually you will be a light being and really ingest nothing but light. Give me a minute. I still have a little bit of laryngitis. So between 10 and 20,000 years ago, there was an invasion. And the invasion happened on the level of consciousness, on the level of your genes, and on the level of biology. and it was cultural. So this is like saying foreigners came to this world, saw that there were very virile bodies that they could kind of ride upon the same way that you ride on a horse, or parasitically attach themselves to, and that's what they did. They forced themselves into the genetic code of this time and place of the people, and that really caused a total breakdown of the system because it was against free will. And the system, when I talk about this, I'm talking about the universal overarching system of consciousness, and it has everything to do with free will because this is how information is achieved. It's like saying you're a scientist and you're allowed to do experiments and that's how you learn. Or it's like saying you're a baby and you're allowed to go around touching things and sensing things and that's how you actually learn. If you don't have free will, then the biofeedback system of the universe is broken and you cannot actually learn. So when these beings forced themselves into the living beings that were on Earth at that time, it massively retracted the amount of free will that was available. And then what also happened was a creation of external mind control technology. If you can imagine giant pyramids like giant Merkabahs that were made out of crystal, and they were technological amplifiers of this mind control, power over others paradigm, and it literally controlled people's minds so that you could not think. You could not think on your own. Here in this time and place, this is a dark age, but at the very least, you can think on your own. You have all sorts of demons that are trying to get in, that are trying to harm you and trying to steal your energy and insert themselves into you, but you do not, and you have media, mainstream media, television, advertising, marketing, all of that, quite satanic world, but this is a walk in the park compared to the world of between 10 and 20,000 years ago, where literally there was mind control that made it so that you could not think the thoughts you wanted. And that took away from people's bliss, and that harmed the balance of the tectonic plates and gravity on the planet, and that caused pretty much a wholesale catastrophic destruction of the surface culture of the planet. And it destroyed the mind control technology, which sank below the Atlantic Ocean and has created disturbances such as the Bermuda Triangle. And it also was a mind wipe. It wiped the mind of humanity so that humans lack continuity of consciousness. It's like when you wake up from a dream and you're like, wait, what? What was I just, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? That's what humanity faced. And so it went from being a high technology, sophisticated culture where everything, they didn't burn things to stay alive. They didn't have to combust in order to stay alive. And it went to overnight having to have a campfire to stay alive and put on animal skins in order to stay warm, and a total breakdown of communications between the continents. So this is like the ancient trauma that humanity is dealing with. Just like if you had a bad car accident or, rape or incest or some kind of abuse or something like that in your background, that is the ancient trauma, and that is what needs to be healed. And that is what I am here to do as Aurora with this teaching tool and device for healing called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. This is the way to rectify the situation that was created in Atlantis. And I bring up Atlantis because I know, because I was there, I was a non-human, non-physical entity, and I saw the whole thing happen, and I tried to avert the disaster and avert the slavery, and despite my efforts, this is what happened. And I felt a great deal of personal responsibility in the need to come into the physical realm again. And the act of me coming into the physical realm is what created this interdimensional portal shape. And this interdimensional portal shape, first of all, it allowed the floodgates to open. For thousands and thousands of years, humanity has been living in quarantine with minimal access to information from the Great Galactic Center. It's like having no cell phone reception for a really long time. And as soon as I made the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, it was like we got a little bit of reception. And that allows people to think for themselves. This is the whole point. I have 6 more minutes on this, and then we'll take a brief break and I'll set my thing up again. But I am here in order to bring greater degrees of freedom to humanity. That is the new era. That is what this is all about. No longer are we, or is anyone, meant to have the external authority figures that were turned to in the past. Mama, Dad, Jesus, Obama, somebody tell me what to do. This is the Piscean age. This is from 2,000 years ago. This is from a long time ago. And when I say Piscean, I mean Pisces, like the age of Pisces, and that as we are moving through the great precession of the equinoxes, then we are also moving through great ages of consciousness. And we have exited the age of consciousness wherein it was appropriate to ask for guidance from an external authority figure. And that's where the whole Christian religion came from. So that was last week. Last week was all about no more external authority figure telling me what to do, because now we are each activating our own inner eye. When you activate your own inner eye, you don't need someone else telling you what to do, when to do it, how to pray, what is spirit. You get your own direct experience. So this is also all about Flying Rainbow Lasagna, where you will begin to access your higher faculties. You won't have to have someone else give you permission, give you guidance, tell you what to do. You will be able to learn everything essentially from having an eye up here and looking at the library of the universe. So hold on one second. How does the Flying Rainbow Lasagna set you free? What is this all about? This is all about what happens when you get another dimension. So if this is my hand, this is a flat two-dimensional surface, and if I fold my hand, I am gaining another dimension. I'm literally going from just this surface, and now I have all of this area over here as well. Well, what has been holding humanity back is that you are stuck to the surface of time. Humanity has been stuck in time. You don't get to choose if you wake up in the morning and then go to next week and then go to lunchtime and then go to dinner. You can't do that. You go morning, lunchtime, dinner, bedtime. You don't get to choose to go backwards or forwards in time. But with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna and other aspects of teaching, gonna sneeze, but
Yeah.
you get to choose about the non-linear aspect of time that you would like to experience. So this means you can choose to speak with ancient Mayan shamans from thousands of years ago. You can choose to speak with an extraterrestrial culture that by linear time standards does not even exist yet. And you get to fold and reformat your genes into a new format that means you experience the flow of time differently. So not only can you travel with your consciousness to different times and places, but your cellular chronological aging becomes different. So I wanted to bring up an example of like a supernatural creature, but a lot of the examples that we have in mythology are of negative supernatural creatures that somehow, feed off of the living, like vampires. They can live forever, but they have to drink the blood of the living. This is very different. The idea of, the ascension and the immortality that I am promoting or being a proponent of is one of being in such innate perfect divine connection and harmony that the friction of your mind is reduced, that the cellular aging, which is a byproduct of the friction of your mind, is reduced. And I'll just give a very brief 1-minute tangent to the idea that people want to use cannabis to heal, but they're like, but I don't want the psychoactive effects. But really, the psychoactive effects are part of the healing because they are taking you out of the time-oriented mind that is the hacked operating system that was installed in each one of us in early childhood. Before you learn how to read a clock, before you learn, when things are, you just exist. You don't exist according to the clock. And then you begin to learn, usually through television, you begin to learn like when is Sesame Street on or when is my favorite TV show on. but sometimes it's through learning when is lunchtime, and then people begin to be time oriented. It takes you out of the oceanic consciousness and puts you into a more time-oriented consciousness. So hold on one moment while I save my Educreations recording and get that set up again, and then we'll go on round 2 for the rest of this. It's just easier for me to do one thing at a time. Good, so now I'll get set up for a new lesson, get my pictures again. And this matters because I am going to get into the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna also, this is more than just a bunch of words that I am sharing with you. This is something that you can actually do, that you can actually feel, that you can actually become. But that's like saying, if we have a class that's all about how to run a marathon, very different than actually getting out there and spending the time to train and to run and to actually do the exercise. So having a class and speaking about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is very different than the experience of living according to the experience of it and feeling the different effects that that has on you. So, okay, here we go, bringing up a few. So this is an interesting, I don't know if you can see that on the screen behind me, but I'll leave it up for people who check out the Educreations. This image that I just put up, and I'll go over it in darker marker so that you can see it, but these are all formations of your genes. Oh, here you go, you can kind of see that. And there's a beautiful interplay of like interweaving. This is from a scientific paper, so you can tell it's totally legit. Like one thing you have to understand, guys, I don't make this stuff up. Here we go. I don't make this stuff up. I don't call myself a scientist because I feel that it's another belief system akin to religion, and it is very limiting in that people who have a scientific mindset often don't even ask certain questions because they aren't prepared for the answers. Like science is not just about, yeah, Mike's laughing, just about objective fact-finding in life. It's really not. And the more that you learn about statistics, you can learn how things can be statistically manipulated to prove exactly what you want. And then when we go into corporate funding of science, then we really see that most science is created in order to bolster a set of preconceived ideas as opposed to real research and exploration about what the world is like. But there's interesting stuff in science in terms of observation, and they've been able to observe DNA underneath an electron microscope while it's vibrating. So I told you science is all about cutting up the genetic sweater and putting it into solution and, hacking it up in order to find out more about it. It's just beginning to be technologically advanced to be able to perceive DNA as it is doing its dance. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a new dance step that you can do with your DNA. So now let's get into affecting other people with your vibration, cosmic consciousness, and interdimensional ethics. So the good ones, up there, the hyperspace beings that are good ones, they are ethical. They understand that just revealing themselves as hyperspace beings to a non-hyperspace being has an impact. This is the whole idea that just a UFO seeing a UFO, or if one of these objects reveals itself in the sky, that is a major life-changing, consciousness-changing experience for most people. It's like saying, if you had never seen Aurora before, or anyone like me, or anyone who even looked vaguely like me, and then all of a sudden, one day you see me walking down the street and you're like, consider my mind is blown, my world is rocked, I didn't know that a person like that could even exist. Well, this is the challenge of a hyperspace being. Let's say I am a totally benevolent, alien to space and time, I live in another realm, I want to help you, I want to come down, I want to fix your world or help you in your difficulties, but I know that just revealing myself to you would have a major impact on your psyche. And it might be a negative impact. For some people, they see something and they're like, that doesn't fit with my worldview, I don't know what to do now, how can I go on living, like, I'm going to become depressed, I can't deal with this. It takes a lot of wherewithal to be able to deal with the understanding that, yes, it's like, yes, Virginia, you are not the only intelligent life in the universe. There's other beings out there. So that's the first thing, interdimensional ethics. And then the second thing is, if you reveal yourself to someone else, you're having an impact on them. And so this has to do also with my personal journey of being a walk-in. you can tell that I made the choice to come into the physical realm in order to have an impact here. I am not merely a carpetbagger or someone who is an outsider from another realm waving my magic wand and imposing what I think is right on you. Because there's such a thing as free will and self-determination. And this is all about sovereignty. And the sovereignty movement is, a universal consciousness movement. So this has everything to do with, it's not appropriate for me to tell you how to live your life. If I think you should stop smoking tobacco, or I think you should stop doing whatever habit I think isn't good for you, I can't force you to do it. It's your choice. It's your journey. So likewise, as a cosmic being, it's not my place to come to Earth and say, I choose for you. I choose for you that you all now should become enlightened, that you all now should stop using fossil fuels, that you all now should stop unnecessarily, harming animals, or, that you should now treat animals humanely. Like, I choose for you. Believe me, guys, if I got to choose for you, I would choose all good things. This would be a world where all consciousness beings are treated humanely, everything from whales and dolphins to pigs and sheep and goats, and the humans would be treated more humanely, believe me. And we're on the journey towards that realm, but it is not going to happen because I force you to do it. It is going to happen because through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you actually get a chance to think for yourself. This is removing your mental shackles. This is removing your genetic shackles. This is popping you back up into a higher dimensional state from the artificially flattened state that you have been existing in for so long. What was this feel like to you? First of all, instead of being one lonely little consciousness who's not connected to anyone else, swimming around in your own private kiddie pool of your mind, instead of that, all of a sudden, you are cosmically connected to a whole giant contingency, a whole community of cosmic consciousness. And again, the folding time aspect of this is that not all of these cosmic consciousnesses are in the corporeal form right now or ever. Some of them have never had bodies, and some of them will never have bodies. If you have a body right now, you wouldn't be able to even speak with them if it were not for the folding of space and time. What it feels like when you begin to access your own Flying Rainbow Lasagna is you have a mental cell phone that you can call anyone anywhere and be connected to anyone anywhere. If I can talk to Mike and Mike is in Idaho, it doesn't matter that he's in Idaho. Like, it only matters if we can only talk to each other if I physically have to walk there and then knock on his door and talk to them. So this is the difference between, like, right now we can only communicate with the people who are in the same time and place as us, right? Can I communicate with you? Are you on Earth? Do you have ears? Can I talk to you? Like, very difficult or more difficult to speak to people who live in Aldebaran. They're far away. Can they hear me from here if I shout very loud? No. So the only way for me to communicate with them is through consciousness. And the way that consciousness can connect across space and time is Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Why is this necessary? Because humanity was programmed to believe in its limitations. Humanity was programmed to believe in the limitations of its own consciousness, in the lack of connectivity, in lack of magic, essentially. We're talking about decrepitude and cellular aging and death and the lack of belief in something beyond the mere presence of the physical material world. There's a huge non-physical, non-material world that is the integument that explains magic and how magic can exist and what magic is. Magic means that there are forces at work beyond the forces and objects that are perceived with our physical senses. There's a higher space. Me being here, first of all of our DNA is affecting everyone else through vibration. If my fingers are like vibrating guitar strings and I pluck this string over here, it affects these strings. All of these strings are being exposed to the waves, the compression waves of the atmosphere or the medium within which the waves are traveling. And so there's the phenomenon of sympathetic vibration. That's when one string is plucked and the next string over here vibrates sympathetically. And that is what compassion is, okay? Because we're all about interdimensional ethics right now. If I'm a hyperspace being, and I know that just showing you my face is going to blow your mind, how do I speak to you compassionately? How do I speak to you ethically? Well, first of all, according to the law of one and according to compassion. So you cannot impose your will on others. You must allow everyone to have their journey. And you also must have your own journey. So, it is entirely appropriate for you to set boundaries and to say, this is what I am doing in my personal journey. And I am not preventing you from making your own choices or doing what you want to do, but this is what I am doing. So if we use the analogy of chorus where everyone is singing, it would be like me saying, I'm going to just sing this note. And I don't know, you can sing whatever you want, you can sing however you want, but I'm going to sing that note because that note I know to be true inside of me. And that is really, it's integrity, it's doing what you know to be true. And then of course, there's social programming and everything on top of that, but that is what we are all really here to do. Because eventually, when you're on your journey of consciousness, when you drop your body and you're no longer in the physical realm, you are your own boss. You're going on your journey of consciousness and there is no external authority figure to tell you what to do. You're creating your own realm and creating your own experiences. And what we are experiencing here is the practice realm, or a realm for making mistakes and being able to pick up the pieces and learn from those mistakes. And then you become honed into really being an expert manifester, and then you are prepared to really go out there and manifest with the big persons. And it's like saying you've practiced on your instrument how to play chords, and now you're really ready to jam with some real musicians. But we are all still here practicing basic fingering, practicing our chords, and the chords that we need to practice, it's all unconditional love. I'm pointing at my heart right now. So this has everything to do with, I have my journey and I allow you your journey. That's what love really is. Love is not, oh, I want to smooch you, or like, oh, like I feel affection towards you. Something like, I love my cat. I feel like I want to hug her and pet her and everything like that. But that's not the type of love that I'm talking about. Like, I allow my cat to be on her journey. It's like if you really love someone, then you say, I allow you to have the life path, the career, the experiences that you need, that you require for your own upliftment. So that's how I feel about humanity. I would not impose my ideas and ideals upon you. You need to have your own life experiences. So it would not be compassionate for me to say, oh, I'm just gonna take over. I consider the world conquered. I have conquered you, and I now take you over, and I make you all be the way I want you to be. That's the antithesis. All that I have done with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I call it open source code for your DNA, because although I am the inventor of it, I do not hold it as a proprietary secret. I am willfully sharing it with others. You understand? I could have kept it for myself, like Gollum and the Ring, the Ring and Lord of the Rings. It's my precious and no one else can have it. I could have done that, but I didn't want to live in a realm where I would have been the one, like, healthy, empowered, free, well-adjusted person, and everyone else would be enslaved or diminished. I really want to live in a realm where everyone is a divine being who is achieving their full potential and who lives in a state of freedom, and where we all co-create a beautiful experience. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna is open source code, and I am here, like, as a computer programmer to tell you, here's this program, this is available, now coming, patch your software, get the upgrade, You don't have to die anymore. You don't have to age anymore in the sense of becoming decrepit. And ascension is a new way to exit the wormhole that is the membrane of death that surrounds this realm, so you don't have to be trapped here anymore. So when I say how to fly in rainbow lasagna, this is, first of all, embodying a set of concepts. The first of the set of concepts is you're more than just a physical body. I draw pictures of the non-physical body all the time. You're a set of non-physical possibilities. Understanding that those non-physical possibilities are constantly being changed and shifted and morphed. It's like bread being baked in the oven. The possibilities exist in the fifth dimension. They exist in a non-determinate state that has not yet collapsed into a fourth dimensional experience that we can actually experience with a third dimensional body. So understanding that, you have a great deal of influence on the baking of the bread. Back to interdimensional ethics. So there's a great experiment that was done about DNA that illustrates how DNA is vibrating strings affecting one another. Two vials of distilled water and genetic material was placed in one of the vials. Then the genetic material was removed from one of those vials and both of the water was tested. Both of the waters tested positive as having been exposed to genetic material, even though the vials were all the way across the room from each other. And what that means is that the genetic material that was put in this vial over here affected this vial all the way across the whole room. We are all affecting each other. Each one of us has a particular recipe of your vibrating strings. You're singing in a giant chorus, okay? And it is your right to sing. That's what you were made for. And it's your right to explore different types of notes and different ways of singing. And it is not appropriate for someone else to tell you what to sing or how to sing. But it is appropriate for someone else to tell you that you have options. And I am here as a walk-in to tell you about this new option that you have available. It is a non-physical option. It is about consciousness, the use of your energy, the use of your spirit. This is, in a sense, a spiritual tool or the type of spiritual technology that no one can take away from you. This is a lasagna earring. It is a physical object. Someone can take it away from you. This lasagna back here and the lasagna that is inside of you, when you really understand it, no one can take it away from you. When you truly embody it on a deep level, you have intertwined your genes in a new format. It cannot be taken away. So what I essentially have brought to humanity is a new pattern, a new way that you can live. So the new way of dealing with reality has everything to do with repatterning your genes, repatterning the approach that you have with your mind and your perception, and beginning to be a co-creative artist in reality. Because remember what I was just drawing before and what I have drawn up here, and you can see it more clearly on my screen, but when the DNA is unfurled and it's being held open like this, and you have, RNA can get in there and read it, but also this means that there can now be new combinations of this side to this side going across like that, or this side going across like that to that side. That means that, because you have essentially a 4-letter alphabet in your genes making up the entire language of your world. You've got adenine, cytosine, guanine, and taurine. And these 4 building blocks are the 4 letters that you can rearrange into everything that is you and all the possibilities of your life, right? But when you are able to unfurl your genes and hold it open by using the flying rainbow lasagna as a placeholder, then you are able to have new combinations of letters. So maybe you couldn't used to go CTGA, but now you can, because you've got more freedom and flexibility. Let me use this image back here. I'm going to make one smaller and make one bigger, and erase this. Oops, let's make it bigger. Good. Okay, this is the flying rainbow lasagna from the top down. This is the flying rainbow lasagna from the side view. You're used to seeing that a lot, but this is the flying rainbow lasagna from the top down. And this is what you use in order to hold the space open in your jeans. So here's your twisted jeans. I'll make that a much darker, heavier line so that you can really see it back there behind me. Okay, so you can see that. Good, and I'm pointing to it. This is the twisted set of your jeans, and we know we have two, and they get unfurled, opened up like this, and that would be analogous to following along the edge, and I'm making a really dark line so you can really see it, following along the edge of the lasagna. You can see going around the outside there, and then going off like that, and then this one follows along the outside edge like this. And that's how my genes are, okay? I will tell you that I have had 2 genetic tests. I had them because of, I was going through the regular allopathic medical system, and I was having very bad head pain. I didn't know that it was from undiagnosed epilepsy, but they gave me a lot of tests as if it were migraines. And one of the tests was for if I had particular genetic disease that causes migraines. So my tests came back both times that it did not have that particular disease, but that there was an unspecified mutation. And I asked them, I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, oh, it means that it's a mutation, but it's not giving you a disease or harming your life in any way. So I can tell you that according to the science of this time and place, I have been tested to be a mutant. And I can also tell you that from my firsthand personal experience and being able to see with my inner insight, that my genes are in a new format. And I am presenting myself as an example of what each person can do with their genes. Because it is not appropriate for me to come down and for me to say, oh, Noelle, oh, Mike, oh, Heidi, oh, Lucy, you all have to be like me. I'm going to make you over in my image and be my way, like you'll all be my zombies and then you'll go like this. It's not about that at all. Because really, when you begin to use the flying rainbow lasagna within yourself, it makes you more of your true self. So if you are a musician, it brings up all of your musical artistry, or whatever is your particular talents and skills inside. If your talent and skill is being an extreme extrovert and knowing a lot of people and meeting people and putting them together, like that just brings that up. It does not mean that all of a sudden everybody has to, be a painter or wear rainbow earrings or, have long hair. It's not about that at all. It's more like saying, when I flying rainbow lasagna, this is who I become. Become your most fullest rainbow self. And that's what this course and this video conference is really all about. And I take it seriously in that it is a comprehensive journey from one state of being into a more expanded state of being, and that I like to really help to guide people on that trajectory of your journey. It's like if you're an artist and we are taking an art class together. You're learning and you're growing from maybe not being able to draw very well or very accurately to becoming a better draftsperson or learning how to draw more accurately. And we're all doing this. And what we're doing with our artistry, it's called reality. So it's about our relationships, like our love relationships. It's about our money or our abundance and our wealth, or where we get our abundance from. It's about our personal exploration, learning new things. But if it's reading new books or educating yourself just because you want to educate yourself, or if it is learning new things so that you can, invent a new invention and help the world, that these are all the things that Flying Rainbow Lasagna can help you to do. And in the more than 10 years, I've been here for 13 years. Since I came here in 2001, I have noticed huge cultural shifts due to the availability of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Mike's question is, do I change someone else's DNA by being in their presence? The answer is yes. The answer is big, fat yes. So when we understand that, we understand we have an interdimensional ethical responsibility just existing, just walking down the street. So first of all, even if you never called anyone, picked up a pen, or went on the internet, you're having an impact on the world. So use your mind for positivity. Have a positive impact. What you send out with your vibrations is affecting others. And if you are agitated, violent, filled with hatred, like all of that lower vibrational kind of garbage stuff, you'll be sending that out. And this is why I do not watch a lot of TV shows. I don't watch things that are violent, and I don't watch things that are done from a corpse's point of view, because I do not wish to send that out into the universe. There's plenty of it. We don't need more stories about serial killers. We don't need more scary stories about boogeymen. That already exists in many people's imaginations. I don't have to think about it and send it out into the world. What I think we need more of is more peace, harmony, joy, exuberance, and lightheartedness. So those are the things that I choose to think about and send out into the world. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is also like a practice. It's like the violin. I used this analogy with someone else recently when I was at a birthday party for a little girl, and she received with great fanfare her very own violin. And so of course she picked it up and started to play it, and it sounded horrible, and she handed it back. She said, "It's broken." And we were all laughing as grown-ups, like, "Oh no, little child, it's not broken. You just have to practice and then it'll sound better." But think about manifesting, thinking about being an artist of your reality, about creating the personal existence, the life that you want to have as an individual, and the life that you want to have as a culture and as a whole planet. Right now, it's kind of like, oh, I tried some visualization and it didn't work, it didn't manifest. Hand back the violin, it's broken, it doesn't work, manifesting doesn't work. It's like, no, little girl, it does work. You have to work at it, you have to practice at it. And I tell myself this also, because look at me, look, I'm Aurora, and I'm here, and I know all about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I am still in the process of learning how to manifest all of the things that I wish to manifest. In terms of having more people know about my artwork, having more people know about my lessons, that is always happening. But the way that you get better is not by either giving up or complaining, it is by doing it. So the way that we all get better at manifesting or co-creating the reality that we wish to experience is by doing it. And okay, how does Flying Rainbow Lasagna work? How do you actually do it? What is the actual meditation like? It is similar to doing the Merkaba in that I sit in, with my legs folded, like as if I were sitting in meditation. But I understand that the singularity that is within me and the singularity that is at the center of the planet, or at the center of another person, or at the center of the sun are the same singularity. In exactly the same way that over here in this drawing, I'm now drawing a giant orange dot up at the top. That singularity up there is the same singularity as that right down there, that right down there. I'm actually going to paint a painting that's all about this, that shows a heart of a person and the earth and the sun all being connected through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, through that singularity. And this is beyond a mere intellectual understanding of it. Like I have now gotten across the mere intellectual understanding, like, oh, I have a singularity inside of me, and there's one at Earth's core, and there's one inside of the sun, and there's one inside of every star, and there's one inside of the galactic core. But then there is a huge learning trajectory to get to actually applying that. But that's the basics of it. It's like saying, well, how do you run a marathon? Well, you just move your right foot, then you move your left foot, then you move your right foot, then you move your left foot again. Like, this is simple, but it's not that simple. But the concept is very simple. So the concept is that within each one of us, I envision it directly behind my eyes in the place where the brow and crown chakra intersect. And I drew a whole lesson all about that last week. That is your own innate divine connection. That is the singularity that is within you. It is your own personal inner doorway to infinity. It is how your consciousness got into this body. It is how your consciousness can get out of this body. Earth is just like you and I. Earth has a respiratory system, Earth has a blood system, Earth has metabolism. Earth is a person. This is another big message that I really want people to understand and embrace. Earth is a person, just like you and me, and needs to eat, respirate, metabolize, and reproduce, and transpire, and has consciousness, and feels pain. And Earth has a singularity inside of itself. It is in the core of the planet, where the gravity emanates from. And the sun has a singularity inside of itself, because basically any place where you have one of those toroidal, donut-shaped energy systems, you have a singularity. It is thousands of times inside of your genes, because your genes are supercoiled. Oh, hi there. That's okay. Thanks for popping in.
I didn't know if we needed to lock the doors.
I'll lock up after I go.
Thanks.
Have a great night. Thank you. We're here at Ink People. This is a local not-for-profit art space, and so they also have performances. Like, I'm not sure if you can hear, but it sounds like there's a rehearsal for a musical performance going on in the hallway, and I sometimes do the broadcast from the computer clinic, but today I have the Ethernet cable out under the door, so coming in here like this. So I'm just going to wrap up and save what I was recording. Here we go. And then I will bring what we're talking about to a good denouement. Okay, good. So now that that's all saved, and I will focus on just talking with you. We are all affecting one another all the time. This is also how you can really understand that each one of us has a basic innate value. You cannot say, even a person who could be blind and deaf and unable to speak and be confined to a wheelchair, that person is still experiencing life and is still emanating, and their vibration has value. So you cannot say like, oh, a person has no value. Each one of us has value, as does every plant, every animal, all matter. This all is consciousness, and this all has a beautiful, amazing value to it. But let's not say that everything is equal to the point of ridiculousness, because just like in chorus, there are some people who might be trained opera singers, and they not only have perfect pitch, but they can sustain their note for a very long time. And then there are some people where they might have a gravelly voice, or maybe they can't hear, or maybe they're tone deaf and they're singing a little off key. So in our co-creative artistry of learning to use the flying rainbow lasagna, learning to pop out your genes from the format that they were in terms of being flattened out and degraded, and now in claiming your full capacity as a full spectrum human, it is necessary to take ethical responsibility in what you are manifesting and artistic responsibility in what you are manifesting. So, when I look around and I see certain ideas, I say, that's a flying rainbow lasagna ideas. Things that are about sustainable living, that help humanity towards freedom, that take humanity away from powerlessness and away from, let's say, dependence upon physical technology, things that bring people closer in touch with spirit, things that allow people to not have to be so dependent upon like technology like this, but to be able to be more, basically, you can tell that an idea is flying rainbow lasagna influenced if it leads towards greater freedom. Okay, question from Mike about DNA. Does flattened out DNA mean the DNA coils are flattened out? No, I am referring to DNA as it currently is, the format that it's currently in is a flattened out version of what it's supposed to be. So having two strands twisted together into a helix, and then that in itself supercoiled into the X-shaped chromosomes, is a flattened out and diminished state. Your DNA is supposed to be way more complex than that. Imagine if instead of one piece of yarn that's made out of, two, things that are twined together like that, imagine if you had 10 or 12. Imagine a strand of yarn that is made from 10 or 12 things. And now imagine, as I'm weaving fabric, if every time I go up with my 10 or 12 strands, maybe only half of my strands go up, maybe half of my strands go down. And then on the next one, we flip and half go up and half go down. But maybe only 3 of my strands go up and 2 of my strands go down. It's basically like saying that variables have been removed from you, or keys on your piano have been removed so that you can't play all of the octaves that are in your repertoire. So, you can make some pretty good songs with 3 chords. The band Nirvana and many punk bands have done a lot with 3 chords. But isn't it so much more expansive when you can work with a full 88 keys and do all of the notes that you want to do? So think about humanity. Humanity's been playing away on this out-of-tune piano, that's the genetic code, without all of the piano keys for a very long time. That is why there's starvation. I will tell you this, we don't have starvation because it's a non-benevolent God who doesn't care about you and who wants to see suffering. No, that's not true. We have starvation because humanity had its genetic code degraded and has not been able to come up with a better system for food production and distribution. That would be akin to having all of your 88 keys. So I envision, here's a great example of a flying rainbow lasagna type of idea for food production. They're doing this now in Portland or Seattle, I forget which one. It's called food forests. So this is the idea of taking the commons, these are lands that are owned by everyone, and turning it into food production for free. So public parks are being planted with fruit-bearing trees, different herbs, different annual vegetables that people are then allowed to go and pick and subsist off of. And there's a pretty big movement to do that even in urban spaces. A lot of good stuff down in LA, places where even if there's a little highway median or a little unused lot in an urban area, people are doing guerrilla gardens and planting there because they're understanding that gives you freedom. Not only does that give you beautiful food that is filled with light and real consciousness, but it gives you freedom because you no longer have to work like a slave to get money to go to a store to buy food. And this is what our world is supposed to be like. We're supposed to be able to simply walk around from place to place, like the way that elephants just migrate and walk around from place to place, eating the food that we have all planted and wildcrafted for ourselves, and enjoying freedom. And right now, the culture and what we're experiencing is pretty much the antithesis of that. And that's because it wasn't created by humans for humans. It was created by non-terrestrial overlords in order to exploit and use humans. And, if the real thing that I am here for, I am a freedom fighter. And DNA in the universe is all about free will. DNA is not only on Earth. This is also what needs to be eyes opened. Okay, humans, it's not that scary. Open your eyes, because DNA is a force for consciousness throughout the entire galaxy. Our galaxy is like a test tube or a petri dish where all sorts of different little materials were sprinkled throughout. And then the great observer has been observing what is happening as a result. So our experience on Earth is the result of first, genetic material sprinkled onto the petri dish, but then there was a beautiful Earth culture, and then unwanted genetic material came in. It's like saying that, you had a culture of a particular bacteria or yeast, and then it caught a virus. It can happen. So now, Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the antidote to that virus. I will also tell you, and I know this is we're at the end of class, but I'm totally open for more questions, but I invented this on October 8th of 2001, right after 9/11 of 2001. 9/11 was like a miniature fractal experience of the genetic degradation that happened in ancient Atlantis, about 12 or 15,000 years ago. that 9/11 was in itself another type of mind control spell. It was designed to make people go asleep, to not think, to not know about things. And I came in through that rift in space and time, or let's say in the wake, like you know how a ship at sea leaves a big wake? 9/11 left a huge wake in the hyperspace world. And I came in through that level of disturbance and created this as the antidote to not only what had happened in the ancient realm in Atlantis, but also what had literally just happened here in Manhattan on September 11th. It was that those events were designed to take away your free will. They were designed to take away your capacity to think for yourself. Let me put it this way. Let's say that I was like a really bad hypnotist, and I, instead of using my video conference for the forces of good, used it for the forces of evil. And I said, I'm hypnotizing you guys. You're now all under my spell. Give me all of your money. Do everything that I tell you to do. Allow me to take away all of your freedoms. Don't think clearly. Go home and anesthetize yourself with beer and Prozac. I mean, if I did all of those things and did them effectively, I would be essentially what the shadow conspirators are. It's not really our government because it's not whom we have elected to government. It's the shadow government that runs the United States government, and that runs also the City of London and the Vatican City, and you know, it is pretty much an international, non-elected, non-human government. So all of this is coming out in the open now. Like, I can now be out in the open about being a non-terrestrial humanoid. I couldn't really do that in 2001. The landscape was very different, and I couldn't be as out of the closet as I am now. There's also, people are much more aware of the reptilian influence and the negative, lower vibrational service to self entities that have been impacting Earth culture for such a long time. What used to be considered a crazy conspiracy theory 10 years ago is now much more widely disseminated and accepted, and even the idea of ancient aliens, or the idea that aliens existed in ancient cultures and were often mistaken for gods or demigods, and that a lot of mythologies were built up around them. I mean, I used to say that as my private teaching and in my community access TV show. And then they started having this show on History Channel called Ancient Aliens, and all of a sudden that became a much more accepted idea. So what I'm trying to say is that the climate or the temperature of human consciousness has changed within the past 13 years, where now humanity is much more open to the idea of, yes, Aurora can be a non-terrestrial presence in a humanoid body and be here as a communicator of higher dimensional ideas for humanity. This is the big thing. Like, this is, I'm underlining it. I'm underlining my own words here. Loudspeaker this. I am doing these teachings and classes and recordings in order to help humanity become free. I cannot set you free. Each person has to set themselves free. It's like if you have an addiction, if it's food or cigarettes or sex or whatever it is, I can't set you free. Each person has to set themselves free. I can give you really great tools of how to do it, though, and a lot of great guidance and support. That is why in this classroom, I mean, the way that I approach everything is that we are equals, and really when I speak with everyone in the human realm, I approach it as if we are equals, and that I can give you an example. It's like if you have ever seen a ballerina or a yogi, person who's practiced yoga for many decades, and they've cultivated themselves, and they might be, 60 or 70 or 80 years old, but they have wonderful posture and great muscle tone and great vitality. And even though you're looking at them and you're thinking, they're an older person, and that is a very good example of how a person can grow older. Well, I am here to show a different way of using the human body and human consciousness. You can take your human form as raw material, and you can imbue it with energy so that it then responds to consciousness, and you can heal your body of disease, aging, and achieve states of total vitality. And most importantly, you transform your consciousness, because it's not just like, I mean, I exist within a body and my body is healthy and comfortable and, is young and vital. It's not just that. It's like living in a house that's a nice house that also has like an awesome telescope that allows you to look out and see all of the stars and see everything that's going on. Real health and real vitality has to do with activating your third eye and your higher energy centers up here. What's really attractive is having all of your chakras in alignment. And it's so ironic and funny and sad to me when I see people in this time and place who get botulism, a toxin, injected into their forehead. Literally, it is a sign of beauty in this time and place to get botulism toxin injected into your forehead so that literally you're paralyzing your muscles and making it so that you can't think and see clearly. But that's considered a sign of beauty. And then you have 10 years younger, darling. I'm 10 years younger. But that's not real youth and vitality. Real youth and vitality comes from cultivating your energy. And you can tell when you look at someone who eats raw food and does yoga, and they have an inner light, they shine, as opposed to a person who doesn't exercise, smokes tobacco, and eats a lot of processed food. And they look more like, like leathery, kind of like a baseball mitt. Their skin looks different. It looks more opaque. It doesn't look luminous. And so really what is happening in this time and place is masks are being taken off. All masks are being taken off, and eventually everything will be revealed. And eventually you're going to be like, Aurora was an alien all along. Like, yes, guys, I told you I was an alien all along, but now you can finally see it. And also, each one of you will be becoming what your true nature is. You'll be who you really are, and you will be cultivated into your true nature. Now we get into the question of, what is your true nature? Who do you truly identify with internally? Mike says, the ideas in your class cause us unlock our DNA. It isn't any one thing. It is cumulative, so there's a lot of different things. First of all, just meeting me and being exposed to me is changing your DNA. Second of all, taking the time to actually listen to my words. You're ingesting my words, and that words are vibration. This is causing a change in your DNA. You're also on a regular basis looking at my artwork, and when you watch the recorded videos, that is all changing your DNA. It's like this: when you were a little tiny child and you went to school and your teacher was writing on the blackboard, he was changing your DNA. Same thing with Mama and Dada, who taught you how to use language and how not to pick your nose in public. They changed your DNA. And what I am doing is offering you another example of how to change your DNA. But unlike other times in your life when someone forced you or it got slipped in under the radar, now at this point in your adult life, you get to make a choice. You get to say, hey, I like the idea of using Flying Rainbow Lasagna energy in order to change and shift my energy field. I like the idea of eventually ascending instead of dying, and no longer having to eat physical objects, and being able to live with a flying troupe of circus angelic performers who float from space to space, from star system to star system, in a state of total bliss and artistic freedom everywhere they go. You might be like, yeah, that sounds like it's up my alley. That's something I want to learn about. And then if a person is really open to that, then the final thing is like putting into practice the different meditations. So on the recorded lessons, lesson 5 was all about how to meditate just stilling your mind. Then we get into sun gazing. There's a lesson that's called Sun Gazing on a Spring Morning. That is really all about, once you learn how to connect your third eye to the sun, that you begin to have much more energy available to you for the divine co-creative experience. And the idea of what the lasagna is, we have lessons where you will begin to use visualizations in your meditation and be able to visualize, didn't get lesson Noelle says, I don't seem to have lesson 8 available in EduCreations. I see our class from 2 weeks ago, but the link from your email doesn't work. I'm so sorry. When I get home, I will take the time to, because I had the conference last week and I was remiss in my duties of here. I'm going to fine tune everything. I'm going to make sure that all of the lessons are up to date and everything is added to the syllabus so that everything should be accessible. So lesson 8 and lesson 9, they should all be up there, and I'll make sure that the class recording from back here from the screens are labeled and properly uploaded too. So this recording is getting to be a bit long. I'm going to stop it, but I'm not necessarily stopping our conversation, but I am stopping what is the official recording for everyone else to